Have you ever looked around and wondered how the world got so loud, so shallow, so painfully stupid? You see it in meetings, on the street, online, especially online. People speaking with absolute confidence about things they barely understand. People following trends like cattle. People who don't think, don't reflect, don't pause. Just react, loudly, aggressively, repetitively. And you ask yourself, how did this become normal? The truth is brutal. Fools have always been here. But now, they have microphones, followers, platforms, and they multiply faster than wisdom can catch up. The problem isn't just that fools exist. The problem is that they thrive. And if you don't understand how to live among them without becoming one of them, they will drag you down with them, slowly, invisibly, relentlessly. Let's make something clear, stupidity isn't the absence of intelligence. Some fools are highly educated. Some have money, success, even power. No, true foolishness is a moral and psychological condition. It's blindness by choice. A refusal to examine yourself. A hunger to be seen rather than to see. A person becomes a fool not because they don't know, but because they don't want to know. Because truth is hard. Thinking is hard. And echoing what everyone else says is so much easier. Marcus Aurelius saw it in his time. The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject, he wrote. Even as an emperor, surrounded by advisors and noise, he understood this: the crowd isn't wise. The crowd is often terrified, ignorant, or drunk on its own delusion. And unless you train your soul, you'll become part of it. Look at social media. Look at politics. Look at how people argue now, not to understand, but to win. Not to find truth, but to humiliate. Everyone wants to be right. No one wants to be real. And we reward this sickness. We feed the fools likes, applause, influence. We make them role models. The Stoics warned us about this long before smartphones existed. Seneca said, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." You are arranging what is in fortune's control and abandoning what lies in yours. Now apply that to modern stupidity. People abandon their responsibility to think, to examine their life, their beliefs, their character, and instead place it in the hands of influencers, crowds, ideologies, or algorithms. They outsource their minds. And so, the fool is not a rare exception. He is the default mode of a person who never chooses to wake up. But here's the worst part: stupidity is contagious. It spreads like smoke in a room, slow at first, then suffocating. Spend enough time around unreflective people, and their shallowness becomes your normal. Their complaints become your worldview. Their approval becomes your addiction. And you won't even notice when your own mind starts to rot. So what do we do? First, protect your mind like your life depends on it. Because it does. You have to become a guardian of your thoughts. A filter. A firewall. Don't let every opinion into your head. Don't treat every trend like it deserves your attention. Don't argue with fools to prove something. They'll drag you into their world and beat you with experience. Instead, practice what Epictetus called discipline of assent. Learn to say, no. This isn't worthy of my agreement. Second, learn how to be alone. Fools can't stand silence. They need noise to fill the void. But silence is where wisdom grows. If you want to rise above the herd, you must get used to walking alone. Not always, not forever, but often enough to clean your soul from the pollution of collective madness. Third, seek out the wise. They exist. They're usually quiet, humble, almost invisible. But when you find someone who reflects before speaking, who listens more than they talk, who doesn't try to impress, stay close. Not physically, necessarily, but mentally. Read them, watch them, study them. Because wisdom, too, is contagious. The world will not fix this problem for you. It rewards noise, not thought. It exalts performance, not principle. If you don't deliberately choose the life of the wise, you will fall into the life of the fool by default. That's the terrifying simplicity of it. We live in a time where intelligence is cheap, but wisdom is rare. Where everyone has an opinion, but few have character. The only way out is through self-mastery, through stillness, through clarity, through knowing what you will tolerate, and what you will not. Don't just protect yourself from fools. Refuse to become one. It starts small. You laugh at the stupid joke. You nod politely to the empty comment. You scroll past the garbage post, but don't block it. You engage in an argument just to feel clever. And without realizing it, you're already in the fog. Not because you agree with the fools, but because you've allowed their world to become familiar. That's how it begins. Foolishness is not always loud. Sometimes it's disguised as charm. It comes dressed in humor, in trends, in the illusion of belonging. It seduces you by saying, "Don't think too hard. Everyone else is doing it. Why stand apart?" And little by little, the part of you that used to feel discomfort goes numb. Most people aren't fools because they're evil. They're fools because they've stopped questioning their environment. They conform without realizing it. They repeat things they've never examined. They believe what's comfortable, not what's true. Because truth, very often, is ugly. It demands sacrifice. It's unpopular. It can leave you alone in a room while everyone else laughs. But the Stoics weren't interested in popularity. They were interested in clarity. In strength. In the kind of courage that walks through a broken world without becoming broken itself. That kind of clarity begins when you ask yourself one question, every day. What kind of person am I becoming? Not, what do people think of me? Not, am I winning? Not, do I seem smart? But this, am I becoming the kind of man who could walk through madness, and stay sane? Because here's the truth most people can't bear to admit, the world has always belonged to fools. They've always been the majority. In Rome. In Greece. In our time. What's different now is this, fools have reach. They have amplification. They go viral. They get rewarded for ignorance, for chaos, for noise. And the wise? The wise are quiet. They're careful. They take longer to speak. They don't entertain the mob. So guess who gets noticed first? That's the trap. If you measure your value by attention, by fame, by applause, you're already lost. Fools live on reaction. The wise live on reason. The fool asks, what do they think of me? The wise man asks, what do I think of myself? You might say, but I don't want to live like that. I want peace. I want to be left alone. And that's fine. But here's the paradox, if you don't make yourself strong, the world will not leave you alone. It will pull you back in. It will test you. It will flood your mind with nonsense, with envy, with noise, until your silence turns into weakness, and your retreat becomes defeat. Strength is the only true protection. Mental, spiritual, philosophical strength. The kind of strength that Seneca called the fortress of the soul. The fool builds his house in the city. The wise man builds his walls inside his own mind. Because he knows, peace is not given. It is built. So how do we build it? You begin with discipline. No one likes that word anymore. It sounds cold, harsh. But it's the beginning of everything. Discipline is the refusal to follow the herd. The refusal to indulge every impulse. The refusal to let yourself rot in laziness, in envy, in reaction. The disciplined man is dangerous to the world of fools, because he cannot be manipulated. He cannot be seduced by comfort, nor intimidated by noise. Discipline is freedom. But not the freedom the modern world talks about. Not the freedom to consume or to scroll or to do whatever you want. Real freedom is this, to be in control of your own mind. To stay still while others panic. To think clearly while others scream. To act deliberately while others chase shadows. The Stoics taught this not in theory, but in fire. Epictetus was born a slave. He was beaten, humiliated. But his mind was untouchable. He said, "You may chain my leg, but not even Zeus can conquer my will." That's not poetry. That's power. That's the kind of man you must become, not because the world will admire it, but because without that power, the world will devour you. So what do we do about fools? We don't hate them. We don't scream at them. We don't try to convert them. That's a waste of life. We become the opposite of them. We make our lives a quiet revolution. We become so grounded, so precise, so unmoved, that others begin to feel the contrast. We speak only when it matters. We act when others freeze. We build while others destroy. We think when others imitate. That's how you win. Not by shouting louder. Not by mocking the fool. Not by fighting every fight. But by becoming what they cannot touch. Some people think Stoicism is cold, detached, lifeless. They couldn't be more wrong. Stoicism burns with passion. But it's not the wild fire of emotions, it's the fire of the forge. Controlled, directed, strong enough to cut through confusion, calm enough to withstand the storm. The fool is ruled by moods, by trends, by the opinions of the day. The Stoic is ruled by principle, by discipline, by the logos, the order of the universe. It's not an easy life, but it's the only one that leads to freedom. You have to ask yourself, do I want comfort, or do I want clarity? Do I want to blend in, or do I want to rise? Do I want to be accepted by fools, or do I want to look in the mirror and know I am a man? Because here's the final truth, the one no one tells you. You don't fight foolishness by arguing with it. You fight it by not becoming it. You fight it by becoming a man who thinks, who endures, who builds. A man of presence, not performance. A man who can walk through a collapsing world and carry silence like a sword. Not to impress. Not to lecture. But to stand his ground when the wind of madness starts to blow. The world has enough fools. It's waiting to see if you'll become one more. Or if you'll become something else entirely. You don't defeat stupidity by being louder than it. You defeat it by being deeper than it. By seeing further. By stepping outside the circus tent while everyone else fights over peanuts. The world is full of shallow battles. Endless debates, useless outrage, artificial crises. The wise man doesn't jump into every fire. He knows which fires burn and which just make smoke. A fool sees every disagreement as a threat. Every idea that challenges him as an attack. But the wise man sees disagreement as a mirror. A chance to test himself. To sharpen his edge. And when he's wrong, he admits it. Because his identity is not built on being right. It's built on being real. That's the rarest thing now, being real. We're surrounded by illusions. Curated lives. Manufactured personalities. Echo chambers that turn ignorance into confidence. Everyone's performing. Everyone's selling something. Everyone's screaming. But very few are listening. Very few are grounded. Very few are thinking. And that's why fools dominate. They dominate because most people are tired. Distracted. Spiritually weak. They want shortcuts. Fast answers. Validation. They don't want to wrestle with doubt, or sit alone with uncomfortable truths. They want to feel good, now. And if a lie makes them feel better than the truth does, they'll choose the lie. And here's the part no one wants to hear, you've been a fool, too. So have I. We all have. At some point, we ignored our inner voice. We repeated things we didn't understand. We followed the crowd even when it felt wrong. That's part of being human. The danger is staying there. Getting comfortable in that ignorance. Turning it into an identity. The Stoics didn't pretend to be perfect. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He wasn't lecturing others. He was warning himself, every day, that he could drift, that he could lose the thread, that he could become a fool if he didn't remain awake. That's what you need, not superiority. Not mockery. But vigilance. Because foolishness isn't always obvious. Sometimes it feels like self-righteousness. Like certainty. Like fitting in. And if you're not careful, it will disguise itself as strength. But it's hollow. You'll feel it when you're alone, something missing. That quiet voice asking, who am I really? If you don't answer that voice, the noise of the world will answer it for you. And you'll become just another echo. That's the real war. Not between you and other people. But between you and the voice that wants to forget who you are. The voice that says, take the easy road. Be liked. Be lazy. Be loud. Be one of them. You have to kill that voice. And you do it by building habits that strengthen the soul. Wake early. Not because it's trendy, but because the first light of the day belongs to you. It's quiet. It's clean. Use it to train your mind. Read something ancient. Something permanent. Let your first thoughts come from the wise, not the foolish. Write, even if it's just a sentence. A thought. A question. Writing is reflection. It's resistance to noise. It makes the mind slower, deeper, clearer. Challenge yourself. Physically. Mentally. Do hard things on purpose. Why? Because the fool avoids discomfort. But the wise man seeks it, because he knows that comfort is a trap. It rots the soul. The cold shower, the long run, the hard conversation, these things sharpen you. Speak less. Listen more. Let others reveal themselves. You'll see how quickly most people unravel when they're not performing. Don't try to outshine them. Just observe. Remember what Epictetus said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. And finally, guard your inputs. Your eyes. Your ears. Your time. Don't poison your mind with gossip, distraction, or outrage. You become what you consume. And fools consume garbage. This is not about becoming a monk, it's about becoming a man. A man who can stand in a room full of noise and still hear his own thoughts. A man who can walk into a world gone mad and not catch the infection. Because you will be tested. There will be moments when the herd surrounds you. When stupidity feels like a wave, and you feel like you're drowning. You'll be mocked. Dismissed. Ignored. That's the price. But it's worth it. Because on the other side of that storm is something rare. A kind of freedom most people will never know. The freedom of a man who cannot be fooled. The freedom of a man who doesn't need validation. The freedom of a man who sees clearly, because he has chosen clarity, again and again, no matter the cost. Don't expect applause. The world won't clap for your discipline. It won't thank you for your silence. It won't reward you for your restraint. But when the fools panic, you will remain calm. When they collapse, you will stand. And when they finally look around, desperate for someone to follow, they'll look to you. Not because you asked, but because you endured. Because you saw what they couldn't. Because you refused to be like them. Most people don't notice when they become fools. That's the most dangerous part. It doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens gradually, subtly. You laugh at something you used to question. You agree with something just to avoid conflict. You follow a crowd because standing alone feels too cold. You stop asking why. And without realizing it, you're no longer thinking. You're repeating. You're reacting. You're surviving by imitation. A fool is not someone who lacks intelligence. A fool is someone who has surrendered the will to see clearly. It's not about education. It's about the hunger for truth, or the lack of it. Fools don't want truth. They want comfort. They want stories that flatter them. They want enemies they can blame. They want to be right, not free. And once you understand this, you stop arguing with fools. Because you realize, it's not ignorance that blocks them. It's pride. You can show a fool evidence, logic, lived experience. And they will still resist. Not because they don't get it, but because deep down, they don't want to. Admitting the truth would cost them too much. It would crack the image they've built. It would force them to ask, have I been wrong all along? And most people are too weak to face that. But you can't be one of them. If you want to rise above the madness, you must be willing to be wrong. To examine your thoughts. To let go of old beliefs that no longer serve you. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's courage. That's the beginning of wisdom. Seneca wrote, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. Now think about what that means today. You scroll endlessly. You jump from opinion to opinion. You're flooded with headlines, arguments, jokes, outrage. You are everywhere. And that means, you are nowhere. Fools live in that state constantly. They can't sit still. They can't hold a thought. They can't go 5 minutes without stimulation. They have lost the ability to be present, to be silent, to go deep. And the solution isn't to catch up with them. The solution is to stop, to detach, to step away from the flood, and return to yourself. There is nothing more threatening to a fool than a man who sees clearly. Because he exposes their game. He doesn't take the bait. He doesn't dance to their tune. His silence unsettles them. His restraint makes them nervous. His calm feels like power, and it is. Clarity is power. Stillness is power. And that's why you must protect both like your life depends on it. Because in a foolish world, the thinking man is always under siege. They will test your patience. They will mock your values. They will try to draw you into their chaos. And the moment you react without thinking, you've lost. That's how they win. Fools don't need to be right. They just need you to become like them. So you have to make a decision. Do you want to be accepted by fools? Or do you want to be respected by yourself? You can't have both. And here's the paradox. The more you live with wisdom, the more alone you will feel, at first. Because clarity creates distance. You'll stop enjoying the same conversations. The same jokes. The same distractions. You'll feel like a stranger in places where you used to feel at home. But that's not loneliness. That's purification. You're shedding the noise. The illusions. The false connections. And in their place, you'll find something rare. Inner peace. The ability to sit with yourself and not feel hollow. The ability to walk into the world and not be shaped by it. You'll find real strength. Not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that doesn't need to. The fool thinks strength is volume. The wise man knows strength is control. The fool rushes to speak. The wise man waits to understand. The fool chases applause. The wise man follows principle. And if you live like this, long enough, quietly enough, something strange happens. People begin to notice. Not because you demanded it, but because your life becomes evidence. Evidence that there's another way to live, that you don't have to chase trends to feel alive, that you don't have to belong to the herd to be human, that you don't need to win every argument to live a powerful life. The world is starving for that example. And you don't need to be perfect, you don't need to be a saint, you just need to be real, disciplined, honest, awake. That alone makes you a rarity. That alone makes you a threat to the culture of fools. That alone makes you free. There's a moment, maybe you felt it, when you watch people around you wasting time, wasting life, chasing nothing, and you feel something ancient rise in your chest. A quiet rebellion. A refusal. A voice that says, not me. Not anymore. That voice is the beginning of your transformation. And you must protect it. Because if you do, it will guide you out of the fog. It will show you what matters. It will give you the courage to say less, to need less, to be more. You won't need to convince fools anymore. You'll simply outgrow them. Not with arrogance. But with depth, with silence, with truth. Sometimes the hardest part is not seeing the foolishness in others, but seeing it in yourself. That moment when you catch your own voice repeating something you never truly thought through. That moment when you laugh at something cruel just to fit in. That moment when you scroll for hours, knowing you're escaping, but not stopping. That moment when you feel yourself drifting from what you once believed was important. That's when you understand how easy it is to fall asleep while still awake. Foolishness is not just out there. It lives in your blind spots. In your hunger to be seen. In your craving for ease. It whispers, you deserve a break. You've earned the right to relax your standards. And that's when the rot begins. Because that voice never asks for much. Just a small compromise. Just this once. Just one exception. But it never stops. And that's why discipline is not about rules. It's about survival. Mental survival. Spiritual survival. If you don't hold the line, you won't notice when it disappears. And one day, you'll wake up and realize, you've become exactly what you used to resist. That's how fools are made. Not in sudden collapse, but in slow erosion. And that's why self-awareness must be relentless. Every day you must ask yourself, am I living by principle, or by impulse? Am I reacting, or am I choosing? Am I being led by wisdom, or by noise? It doesn't matter what the world is doing. The world will always be loud, unstable, chaotic. The question is, what are you doing? What are you building? What are you becoming? You don't need to control the world. You just need to control the part of it that lives inside you. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius led armies, governed an empire, faced betrayal, plague, and war, but his greatest struggle was always internal. He wrote to himself, not to the people. Not to impress, but to remember. He knew that clarity is not a one-time victory, it is a daily battle. And you are no different. You are at war with your own tendency to forget who you are. To forget your standards. To forget your path. The fool forgets every day. The wise man remembers. And he reminds himself, over and over again, until truth becomes second nature. Let me tell you something uncomfortable, most people don't want you to live like this. Not because they're evil, but because your presence will threaten them. Your discipline will make their laziness visible. Your silence will expose their noise. Your calm will remind them how chaotic they've become. And so they'll push you. They'll mock you. They'll try to make you small. They'll say, you've changed. They'll say, don't take life so seriously. They'll call you cold, arrogant, intense. Let them say whatever they want. Because the man you are becoming is not built by the approval of the shallow. He is built in resistance. In solitude. In silence. In truth. Do not argue with fools. Do not perform for fools. Do not chase fools. Outgrow them. Not out of pride, but out of necessity. You are building a different kind of life. A life that will not bend to every opinion. A life that does not crumble when insulted. A life that does not hunger for attention, but for alignment, with truth, with virtue, with peace. You will know you are on the right path when it feels hard. When it requires restraint. When it costs you relationships, habits, distractions. You will know you are on the right path when others don't understand you, and you're okay with that. You will know you are on the right path when your soul feels clean, even if your name isn't praised. Fools live for reputation. The wise live for character. Fools seek to be seen. The wise seek to see. And this shift, from being seen to seeing, is everything. It changes how you speak, how you listen, how you spend your time. You stop asking, what will they think of me, and start asking, what kind of man am I becoming? You stop chasing admiration and start chasing clarity. You stop seeking shortcuts and start building foundations. You stop proving, and start becoming. And as you walk this path, you'll begin to recognize other quiet ones like you. They won't stand in the spotlight. They won't boast. They won't speak often. But you'll feel them. They've walked through the same fire. They've faced the same voices. And they've chosen to live awake in a sleeping world. Find those men. Read their words. Honor their silence. And when you speak, speak with weight. Because the fool speaks to be heard. But the wise man speaks to plant a seed. And one seed can do more than 1,000 shouts. You are not here to entertain fools. You are here to break the cycle. To live deliberately. To walk with purpose. To leave behind something better than noise. There comes a point when you stop looking back. When the crowd fades. When the noise becomes distant. When you realize, you're no longer part of the theater. You've stepped outside the illusion. And at first, that space feels empty. But then it becomes sacred. A place only you can stand in. A place of clarity, of stillness, of power. That's when you finally understand what freedom is. It's not about doing whatever you want. It's about not needing what weakens you. Not craving approval. Not fearing rejection. Not falling into the traps that others walk into with smiles on their faces. Freedom is not chaos. It is discipline, mastered and lived. And the world of fools cannot offer it to you. They don't even know it exists. They live in cycles. Drama. Envy. Imitation. They wake up chasing noise and go to sleep drowning in it. They measure life by trends. They sacrifice truth for comfort. They abandon principle to fit in. But you have chosen something harder. And because of that, something better. You've chosen to think, to reflect, to endure, to separate what is essential from what is not. And in doing so, you've done something the fools cannot even imagine. You've become dangerous. Not to hurt, but to heal. Not to destroy, but to stand. You've become the man people look to when the storms come. Because you don't panic. You don't follow. You don't collapse. You think. You hold. You lead. And that is what the world truly needs. Not more talkers. Not more noise. Not more puppets with microphones. It needs men who've walked through their own foolishness, faced it, burned it down, and stepped forward clean. Men who carry fire, not on their tongues, but in their hearts. Men who don't just know what is right, but live it. You are not perfect. You will still stumble. You will still feel the pull of the crowd from time to time. But you will return faster. You will see through the masks quicker. You will remember who you are, sooner. Because you've built something solid inside. A core. A compass. A code. And in a world that worships performance, that alone makes you a threat. Not because you attack, but because you do not bend. You don't need the approval of fools to sleep at night. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to join the madness just to prove you're alive. Your peace is your rebellion. Your clarity is your resistance. Your stillness is your revolution. And maybe, just maybe, that will be enough to spark something in someone else. Maybe your refusal to play the game will show others that the game is a lie. Maybe your discipline will inspire someone else to pick up their own sword and fight the inner war. Maybe your quiet life will become louder than 1,000 fools screaming into the void. But even if it doesn't, even if no one notices, even if no one follows, you'll still win. Because you didn't betray yourself. You didn't trade your soul for applause. You didn't waste your life performing for people who don't even know themselves. You lived, deeply, bravely, deliberately. And that is all that matters. So when you walk outside, and the world seems loud and stupid and fast and fake, breathe. Let them run. Let them rage. Let them fall in love with their own illusions. You are not here to save them. You are here to save yourself from becoming them. And if one day, someone sees how you move, how you speak, how you listen, and asks, what's different about you? You won't need to explain. You'll simply smile. Because you'll know. You've won the battle they don't even know they're fighting. And you'll keep walking. Not faster. Not louder. Just stronger. Because the wise man does not shout through the storm. He becomes the storm.